A while back, following the success I had with the 238% scale version of the FT Not So Tiny trainer, I've decided to build a 200% scale of the original FT Spitfire. At first, I thought this project would be easy, but as soon as it started, I understood how difficult it could be. The first thing to do was to print out the plans and cut out all the borders. Using my kids' help, we taped the plans together. Wow, they came out huge, way larger than I expected. Next up, we cut the plans into parts, stocked up on foam board, and taped all the pieces to the foam board. I cut out the parts and realized that I was going to need some help, so I got my wife to help, and together we built the body. The wings were divided into 3 sections because they just didn't fit on one foam board. At some point, my kids decided to join the fun, and we continued working in a goofy manner until we finally finished the wings and body. It was then that I realized that I didn't have any servo extension wires long enough to fit this beast. So I went to a friend who helped me out. He hooked me up with servo extension wires and a few pieces of wood to create reinforcements. Back home, I started setting up all the electronics as well as the reinforcements that I've created with my friend. After installing the servos, I started covering the back end of the fuselage. Next was preparing a firewall. After installing the firewall that I have created, which was thicker than the normal, to the power pod, I secured it down with some tape and installed the motor. I added additional strength by putting a bit of hot glue on the ends of the screws. It was now time to install the reinforcements that I've created, and I had to cut in a few notches to the fuselage to get them to fit. I scratched up all the reinforcements to make sure that they would hold stronger when the glue would be applied to them, and used a hairdryer to heat them up so that the glue wouldn't cool down too fast the moment that it touched the wooden surface of the reinforcement piece. Once all of that was done, I had to see how it looked, so I put the power pod inside and took this photo to show off. One more reinforcements to go on the wing, and we're good to go to the next step. Installing some foam board pieces to make sure that the wing lines up correctly into the fuselage. I also decided to add some pieces into the fuselage, where the barbecue skewer would go in to hold down the wings. Alright, now we got to connect the wings and see how it looks. I think that's enough show off for now. Let's add those barbecue skewers, but how are we gonna get those skewers into that tiny hole? Alright, let's use a drill. Another thing that we need to tackle are wheels, since this plane is too big to be launched by hand. This model doesn't originally come with wheels, so quick search online and we found an article on the FT site about adding wheels to the model. Bending the wires for the front wheels was too hard. To be able to bend the wires, I first had to heat them up on fire from the stove, and only once they were hot enough was I able to bend them. Luckily enough, I was wearing this glove, because otherwise I would have had severe burns on my fingers. When I connected the servos to the control surfaces on the elevator and rudder, I realized that I wasn't going to get enough movement on the push position because the wires that I had weren't thick enough to push such a huge control surface. Since I didn't have any larger servos, I had to improvise again. What I did was use some thin push rod wires, some carbon fiber rod, CA and heat shrink, and created this combination. This gave me the ability to move the control surfaces just the way they should. Now that everything's in place, let's take a look at it all. Yes, I'm still missing the ESC, but damn it, it looks beautiful. Although looking at it, the motor looks too small, and I don't want this just to get airborne. I want this to fly, so I gotta order a new motor that can carry something between 3 to 5 kilograms, and that should give it enough power. This was part 1 of the project. Part 2 will be swapping out the motor, securing the front wheels in place, finishing up the setup, a paint job, and maybe, just maybe, also a maiden flight.